Hi, and welcome back to my channel, The Silver Lining. I'm Yolanda DaSilva. Here I like to talk about tips, tools, skills that you can use to design the life of your dreams, the life that you deserve to have. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. Mindset. What is mindset? It's literally just a particular way of thinking. And it is shaped by our experiences, our peer groups, our families, our culture, our religion, media. Many influences can develop or help us develop a particular mindset. I think a lot of us underestimate just how much our thoughts and the way we talk to ourselves really dictate our reality and help create our reality. Science says that everything is energy, including our thoughts. So our thoughts, if we're thinking positive thoughts, then we're putting out positive energy. And the law of attraction says whatever we put out will boomerang itself back to us. So if we're putting out positive thoughts and positive feelings, then that's what's heading out there and will boomerang back. However, if we're putting out negative thoughts, negative vibration, then that's what's coming back to us. Oftentimes, we consciously believe that we're positive thinkers. However, what is your subconscious core belief, and how does that impact your world? So, for example, a lot of people might think, I love myself. I think I deserve a great relationship. But what is the subconscious belief, right? If you really explore what your subconscious is telling you, that's the framework. That's what's really shaping and shifting and controlling your behavior. And that's the energy that's going out into the universe, not necessarily the conscious. The conscious might be able to pull something good, but it's not going to sustain it. So if you're consciously having good thoughts and like, I'm a good person, I deserve a great relationship, you might be able to attract someone that on its surface, it appears to be a good relationship. But if the subconscious knowing is that you don't deserve love or that you're not good enough, then ultimately you're not going to be able to sustain that positive relationship because you're going to engage in what's like self-sabotaging behavior, and you're going to push that person away because deep down you have a subconscious knowing that you don't deserve it. So again, I'm a visual person, so I'll talk about that again, but maybe draw it out for you to give some perspective. So I brought my whiteboard out. So if you think about your mind as like an iceberg, and you've probably seen this online or different things, but what do we know about an iceberg, right? Is that the top part of it, what's above sea level, so this is our sea level. If you think about this as your mind, I'm using the metaphor of an iceberg. The part that's above sea level, so the part that you can see, it's like your conscious mind. Your conscious mind. The part that you can't see, right? So we know the top part is a large piece of ice. An iceberg is a large piece of ice. But the part with the most significant impact, the part that we can't see, is your subconscious. And so if you think about, I'm a good person, I deserve love, right? You're going to attract maybe a nice person. You're going to attract someone who, wants to treat you well, someone you can live a life with. However, what's really driving, or what energy is really being put out and that's sustainable, is coming from your subconscious. So here you can think, I'm a good person. But if your subconscious knowing is that I'm not good enough, that's going to be the energy that goes out into the universe. That's going to be what drives your behavior. That's what's going to lead to self-sabotaging that relationship. That's what's going to lead to when a really good person or potential mate comes into your life it feels so unfamiliar to you that you think it's uncomfortable and this isn't going to work, and you push that person away. All right. Similar, we do the same thing with our money beliefs, right? So for our conscious beliefs, so we'll get rid of this. Think about, what is your conscious belief about money? If it's like, I want to be rich. I don't know why I put an apostrophe there. I want to be rich, right? Everybody wants more money. Everyone can use more money. But if your subconscious core beliefs, right, that's what's going to drive your money vibration. Think about it. A lot of people might think, have you heard money is the root of all evil? Or more money is hard to come by. Or money burns a hole in my pocket. Or, money doesn't grow on trees. Or what's the other core belief? The only way to make a lot of money, or the only way to get rich, or to really live a life, is by working 80 hours a week. Like basically you have to kill yourself to make good money, or you have to be a crook to be rich. If that's what you really feel, if that's a subconscious knowing, that's what's going to drive itself out into the universe. So money might come in because you have this conscious belief of, I want to be rich, but it's not going to be sustainable if your subconscious and your conscious are not aligned. Okay? So how do you change it? How do you change your relationship vibration? How do you change your, money vibration? You have to first identify your core beliefs about them. You really have to get, I do it by journaling or reflecting, super reflective, and really analyzing things. That's just me. I've always been an analytical person. And, but you can really write things out. Like, what are your beliefs about things? Think about, do you believe that you deserve? Do you have a visceral or a physical response when you think about, I want love? If you have this visceral response, if your body feels like, then that's probably a telltale sign that maybe you don't believe that you deserve real love. If you have a visceral reaction to someone that is really treating you well, or it's like an uncomfortable reaction and you pushing them away, you might tell yourself like, this isn't for me. They're too nice. They're too nice, because it's unfamiliar. And you tell yourself, oh, it must be wrong. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just an unfamiliar situation, because subconsciously you're used to maybe being mistreated. You know how to survive and thrive in chaos, or in, if you grew up in a family or an environment that there was domestic violence, or people spoke really unkindly to each other, or it was incredibly chaotic, but you consciously said, I don't want that for myself. And so you move out of that home, but then you might attract, because subconsciously it's like, I know how to survive in that environment. So then you attract relationships that mirror the relationship that you had as a child, because it's the relationship or the environment you grew up in as a child, because it's reflective of what your core beliefs are about you and relation to other people, in relation to love, right? So same thing with money. You want money, you think you deserve a lot of money, but you might get it. Like I said, consciously, you might get it. You might find a job and boom, you're like making money, but you have a hard time navigating. You have a hard time sustaining it. You can't make ends meet, because subconsciously you're self-sabotaging yourself, because your core beliefs is that you don't deserve that money, or money is not good. Therefore, it's going to constantly, boomerang, in and out of your life. It won't sustain itself. So again, how do you shift it? Really exploring. You have to identify what your core beliefs are about whatever it is that you're looking to change, whatever mindset that you hold about something. You have to identify, explore what it is. So what do I believe? Write out, what do I believe about money? And then what do I want though with money? What do I want out of love? What do I want out of a relationship? What would it look like if I had healthy love, right? And the other thing is, like with relationships, it's leaning into the discomfort a lot. It's leaning into, when someone is treating, rather than saying, oh, he's too nice, I can't date him, or she's too nice, or she's too much of a good girl, I can't date. Lean into that. Lean into it as much as you can in an effort to get that unfamiliar until that unfamiliar becomes familiar, right? And you just kind of go with it. Be less resistant to something simply because it's unfamiliar. We have a way of convincing ourselves that it's uncomfortable. Well, maybe because we normalize discomfort, right? If you normalize discomfort, something that is good might be perceived to be bad. It's that whole, quote of, perception is reality. What you perceive to be a bad thing might not be, or what you perceive to be a bad circumstance or something that's meant to harm you might just be the universe attempting to teach you a lesson in something. Someone might get fired from a job and think like, why me? Why is this happening? I thought I had it all figured out. And then the universe says, well, yeah, you said you had it all figured out. So we want to just kind of throw a wrench in your plans to see if you're able to, bounce back, right? Remember, we don't want to dwell in like the negative place for too long. It's really important to kind of shift your mindset to take, a different view. I literally do this sometimes with folks, like shift your mindset, change out your lenses, change out the view, go from a negative, take out the negative and put on the positive, or those rose colored glasses. Now, you don't want to be completely ignorant or oblivious to things. And that's why you have to do that self-reflection. That's why you want to explore your core beliefs, really gain an understanding. I highly encourage that you write things down, like write out, what are your beliefs about money? What are your core beliefs about relationships? What are your core beliefs about love? If you want those things to change, what are your core beliefs about those things? And if there's any negative indication, okay, put that there. Now, write out what it is that you would like to believe. What is it that you would like to see? Sometimes it's hard to do this on your own. So if you feel like you need to, seek the services of a professional therapist, licensed mental health clinician to help explore these beliefs, especially if you notice that there's a pattern going on. If you find that you tend to date the same type of person and tend to have the same type of relationships, or you tend to find yourself in scenarios where in relationships with friends where you're constantly feeling the same way and it's usually negative, or you're not being treated well or with respect, you might want to seek some counseling to kind of explore what your underlying subconscious beliefs are and work on dismantling them and creating more healthier, positive focused, growth focused mindset and belief system. So that way it can shift your mindset into more positive and you can have a better quality of life. Okay. So I hope you like what you saw today. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.